You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Students, click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Tuesday, August 27, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. I got Chase Brumfeld right there on the other side of the glass, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. That's 205-342-9904. We got a good show on tap for you today. Of course, we're right in football mode, right in the middle of it. Even though the weather this week is going to be brutally hot, hopefully by the weekend it'll cool off a little bit. And it doesn't matter, though, regardless. We got football, and we're excited for that. And I'll tell you about the rundown here in just a second. First, though, I need to let you know that this hour of the Gary Harris Show brought to you, as always, by Alabama Credit Union, your trusted partner for financial success. Embrace financial well-being with Alabama Credit Union. You can find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com, or you can buy them, see them at one of their many locations around the state of Alabama. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, the rundown for today. We got a couple of guests at 9:30. It's the Rocket Man, Drudy Armand from 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville. Then at 10:15, we come back with the Titans Report, the Tennessee Titans Report, each week with Kayla Anderson. And can't wait to get Kayla back on, longtime television sportscaster, and now, of course, for the last few years has been a host of Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5 The Zone in Nashville. She's an Emmy-winning sports anchor and covers the Titans daily and gives us great insight into Tennessee Titans football. And they're excited in Nashville as they have made the transition from Derrick Henry to a new style of offense with Brian Callahan, a new head coach, new quarterback, brought in Calvin Ridley, a wide receiver. So they feel like that they're, of course, J.C. Latham, their first-round pick from Alabama, is going to be the starter at left tackle. So they feel pretty excited about their, not just their future, but this season as well, with Will Levis at quarterback and a new-look Titans offense. So we'll discuss that with Kayla Anderson at 10:15. Your phone calls, as I said, are welcome on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. 205-342-9904 is that number. And right now it's 9:04, and let's go ahead and hit them up with some Tuesday morning headlines here on the Gary Harris Show. Well, what a way to kick off the college football season last night in Tuscaloosa with the University Church of Christ Pigskin kickoff. The featured speaker at the event, which celebrates college football, was former Alabama offensive lineman John Hannah, a member of the Pro Football and College Football Hall of Fames. In addition to Hannah's appearance, the evening featured Tide 100.9 FM's Ryan Fowler, who interviewed Alabama's athletic relations coordinator Cedric Burns. I'm sure that was interesting. And Crimson Tide head basketball coach Nate Oates. John Hannah, of course, the featured speaker and one of the greatest to ever play offensive line in the National Football League. Hannah said this about the event last night, quote, "It's not only about football, it's not only about the children, but it's also about the gospel. All three are key. Most important, the gospel, and it's a lot of pressure on the guy that's here trying to deliver it too. I guarantee you that." He was talking about himself delivering the message. The Alabama Crimson Tide is a 30.5-point favorite against Week 1 opponent Western Kentucky. Alabama goes into the game, though, basically healthy. At his press conference yesterday, head coach Kalen DeVore was asked for an injury update on running back Jam Miller, offensive guard Jaden Roberts, and linebacker Jeremiah Alexander. And Coach DeVore said that Jaden and Jam expected to practice and be ready to go. He said at this point they don't expect Jeremiah Alexander to be able to play on Saturday night, but he'll be close. we'll keep you updated. Of course, in addition to Kalen DeBoer meeting with the media yesterday, the offensive coordinator Nick Sheridan and the defensive coordinator Kane Womack also met with the media. We'll have some of their comments coming up a little bit later on for you in the show. I know that Coach DeBoer has been played ad nauseum. Played live yesterday during the Miller's Edge, played on Ryan Fowler, played this morning on the two shows ahead of me. So we'll probably just play some of the coordinator sound with Sheridan and Womack if we get an opportunity to do that. So I'm pretty confident that everybody's heard Kalen DeBoer. And Western Kentucky Hilltoppers head coach Tyson Helton has named quarterback TJ Finley as the team starter for the Week 1 game against the Crimson Tide. TJ Finley is a quarterback Alabama fans are definitely familiar with. He started his career by making stops at LSU and Auburn, playing against Alabama twice for the Tigers, once for LSU and once for Auburn. Now he's in his first season with Western Kentucky. In between his time at Auburn and Western Kentucky, he spent one season at Texas State, while there he excelled, completing 67.4% of his passes for 3,439 yards and 24 touchdowns. He also rushed for 5 touchdowns. And the most amazing thing, I just read you that resume of how many places he's played. He's still listed as a junior. So he's got 2 years to go at Western Kentucky. As I've said before, ever since COVID, when I look at somebody and I see on the screen what their eligibility is, I don't pay any attention to it. Now, maybe that's going to kind of finally come to an end with we're 4 years removed from the pandemic, but it seems like ever since the pandemic, people just play as long as they want to. I mean, I've said that for a while. Hey, I want another year. Oh, you got it. I lost a year because I had a cold. You got it. So, but anyway, he's going to be a handful on Saturday night. I will tell you that right now, because he's a big, strong guy that can make all the throws. NFL news: the Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb finally get it done. A 4-year, $136 million deal. I mean, right off the bat, I can tell you that's $34 million a year is what that adds up to, I think. Pretty sure if my math is right. That makes him the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. The deal includes a $38 million signing bonus, the largest ever given to a wide receiver, and $100 million guaranteed. That's where the NFL has really changed and is now in line with other sports. For a long time, most of the NFL contracts were not guaranteed. In other words, you got paid as long as you were playing, but if you got traded or if you got cut, you got hurt, your money wasn't guaranteed. Now they have all the money that they get guaranteed, and it's a lot of money, man. But he's a key to their team. If they're going to make a Super Bowl run, which is what their fans are dying to have happen, then they need CeeDee Lamb to do it. So the market dictates what you get paid, and he's getting paid a lot. That is for sure. As far as the rest of the NFL, we'll have the Titans report, as I said, coming up with Kayla Anderson. The preseason is over. Now everybody is getting ready for the regular season, which starts a week from Thursday night, and then the first full weekend of NFL action, of course, will be next weekend. So, we'll be excited about that. Major League Baseball, the Yankees continue to play well. They beat the Nationals last night 5-2. They lead the AL East, and the Braves got some offense last night for Max Fried. They supported Max Fried with 10 runs and 13 hits as they win in Minnesota over the Twins 10-6. The Braves, despite all their injuries, right now are a wild card team, and they're not completely out of the division race, as they've kind of hung in there and made up a little bit of ground on the Phillies. It's still unlikely, I think, that the Braves win the division. They're more than likely to be a wild card team, but they are only 6 games back, so they're not out of this thing. 71-60, the Braves record. 77-54 is the Phillies record. So Atlanta not going to go down without a fight. And listen, if they had stayed healthy, I have no doubt that they'd be one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, but they didn't. The injuries have gotten them, and it's been a lot to been a lot to overcome. The U.S. Open Tennis Championships are underway up in Flushing Meadows, New York, for the men and the women. We talked a little bit about that yesterday, but that's always a huge event, the last big tennis major of the season. And in professional golf, the Tour Championship at East Lake in Atlanta, the top 30 golfers on the PGA Tour, gets underway on Thursday. That's a check of some headlines. It's 9/11 here on the Gary Harris Show. We're going to take our first time out. We're wide open for phone calls in the next segment, 205-342-9904. Go ahead and give us a call and get through. Drew DeArmond coming up at 9:30. And also in the next segment, I'm going to break down and go ahead and take an in-depth look at the first week one of college football in the SEC, and we'll break down the schedule, look at all the matchups. We'll do that.
Coach's Huddle is your insight into your local prep sports program and is brought to you by Venue Tuscaloosa, Barkley GMC, and Legend Energy Drinks.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special.
Repair and the future repairs. No overtime charges on weekends and holidays. No hassle guarantee. Adams Heating and Cooling, 205-872-0045.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays hot and dry today with a sunny sky, the high 97. Clear tonight, the low 72. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, the high 98. Thursday, partly sunny, a few isolated afternoon thunderstorms around, the high 97. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show. For Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
$9:15, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Luxurious townhomes for lease in Tuscaloosa. A stunning home within a secure community awaits you at Pinnacle Park. You have to see this community to believe it. Call today to ask about leasing availability and pricing. Experience luxury living in our newly constructed, unique townhomes. Beautiful, near beautiful Lake Tuscaloosa. PinnacleParkNR.com for more information. That's PinnacleParkNR.com. Or you can give them a phone call, as I said, and get some lease information. Tell them you heard about it on the Gary Harris Show, because they will absolutely knock off $100 off of your lease if you tell them that. The phone number is 205-310-7191, 205-310-7191. That's PinnacleParkNR.com, the website. Pinnacle Park at North River. Secure, luxurious, gated townhome community. Again, you have to see these townhomes to appreciate just how nice they really are. All right, SEC football is back. And on Friday, of course, I'll do all my point spread predictions for the SEC games as I'll start that back. Also, we'll have our Bama football trivia giveaway from T-Town Menswear and T-Town Gallery in the University Mall. We'll crank that up, so Friday is going to be wild. But there are some games on Thursday and Friday in the SEC before we even get to Saturday. On Thursday night, Arkansas Pine Bluff plays Arkansas. That's 6:30. And that's a game I can't quite figure out why they're playing that one on Thursday, but they are. Also, number 11, Missouri is hosting Murray State at 7 o'clock on Thursday night. And then on Friday, Oklahoma hosts Temple. That is a 6 o'clock kickoff. So 3 games in the SEC before we even get to Saturday. And then, of course, the Saturday schedule, the big game in the SEC is Clemson against Georgia in Atlanta. And that is an early kick, which is odd to me as well. 11 a.m., the kickoff time between the Bulldogs and the Tigers. Also at 11 a.m. on Saturday, Virginia Tech is at Vanderbilt. It's a tough opener for Vanderbilt. I'd love to see them win that game. Not sure if they can. At 11:45 a.m. Central Time, all the times I'm giving you are Central Times, Tennessee hosts Chattanooga. Now, that's an interesting game simply because, they're so close in proximity. Chattanooga's a great town, by the way. Knoxville's a pretty town, too. Chattanooga really is a neat town. But you just right up the road and, from Chattanooga to Tennessee. So those two schools, it'd be like Alabama playing UAB. It really would. I doubt very seriously that's ever going to happen. But Tennessee and Chattanooga are playing. So that'll have a lot of interest in that state. Another really big game, in addition to Georgia and Clemson, is Florida hosting Miami in Gainesville Saturday at 2:30. That's 2:30 Central Time. And I guess I should give you the TVs for these as well. Arkansas Pine Bluff at Arkansas's ESPNU. Murray State at Missouri's SEC Network. Temple at Oklahoma's ESPN. Clemson at Georgia's ABC. Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt, ESPN. Chattanooga at Tennessee, the SEC Network. Miami at Florida, ABC, 2:30 on Saturday. Colorado State, which is not a bad football team, travels to Austin to take on Texas. That's also at 2:30 Central in Austin on ESPN. Old Dominion is at South Carolina. That is Saturday afternoon at 3:15 Central in Columbia. Mississippi State, the Jeff Lebby era gets underway. The Bulldogs host Eastern Kentucky at 5 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Plus. So that means that there's no over-the-air TV. That's a stream only. Western Kentucky at Alabama, Saturday at 6 p.m. on ESPN inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Of course, the next week on September 7th, Alabama hosts South Florida, and we will dedicate Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Ole Miss hosts Furman Saturday evening at 6 o'clock Central. That's also a stream only. That's what's unfortunate now. With a lot of these lower tier games, you're starting to get streaming only. You're not getting over-the-air TV. ESPN Plus and SEC Network Plus for Furman at Ole Miss. Same thing with Alabama A&M at Auburn. No live TV for that one. On air TV, traditional TV. It will be on the stream. ESPN Plus and SEC Network Plus. That's Saturday evening at 6:30 Central Time. Another big game. Notre Dame at Texas A&M. That's going to be Saturday evening, 6:30 Central on ABC. Southern Miss travels up to Lexington to take on Kentucky. That's Saturday night, 6:45 Central on the SEC Network. And on Sunday, we've got a big, big game. As Southern Cal faces Southern Cal faces LSU. That is a huge game. 6:30 on Sunday night on ABC. And that game, I want to say I know it's neutral site. It's in Las Vegas. I was trying to make sure I had the site right. USC and LSU will play in Las Vegas. And then on Monday night, now this is not an SEC game, but it's an ACC game, and it'll be a big one for Florida State coming off that loss to Georgia Tech. They host Boston College on Monday night at 6:30 down at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee. So that's your complete Saturday schedule for the SEC, as I said, and I should say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday schedule for the SEC. I'll have those point spread predictions coming up on Friday on my show, and I'll get the latest point spreads together for you. But it should be a great weekend, obviously, of college football the first week. And I'm a little, of course, when they kick in, sometimes the phone calls kick in all at once. I'm a little surprised that we haven't had a little more action on the phone lines today. as we discuss college football in the upcoming week. Oh, well, I'm paid to talk on this show, so I don't mind doing it. Like I said, that's part of my job. So some takeaways that I have going into this season opener for Alabama, having tracked it during the preseason, during the fall camp, now into game week. I went to the press conference yesterday and listened to Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan and Kane Womack. And listening to all three of them talk yesterday, it is what you would imagine it is from listening to them. They're excited. They're ready to go. First games are always exciting for coaches. Let's be clear on that. They're never not exciting, all right? At the same time, this is even more exciting, I think, for a coaching staff when you're taking over a new program. And not only you're taking over a new program, but you're taking over the most storied program in college football history. And that is what is happening for Kalen DeBoer and this coaching staff. You're not just coaching in a first game for a new school. You're coaching in a first game for the Alabama Crimson Tide at home. And you're taking over a program that's won 6 national championships since 2009. Has won 9 SEC titles since 2009. And has been the dominant program in college football since 2009. In fact, between 2009 and 2020, in an 11-year period, Alabama won those 6 national titles under Nick Saban. They actually haven't won one now since 2020. So it makes it even more impressive when you consider that in an 11-year span, Alabama won 6 natties. So my point is, for Kalen DeBoer and this coaching staff, the process of coaching a game doesn't change. Whether DeBoer was at Washington last year, or the coaches that are on staff now that were here last year, or coaches that came in from somewhere else. Coaching is coaching, and I certainly respect that and get that. But I do think that the adrenaline, the excitement for these coaches that have never coached a game for Alabama, and some of these coaches have never coached in the stadium, period, that Saturday night's going to be special. I think there's only one first game in your career with your new school, and that's Saturday night. The next week against South Florida, it'll still be big, but it won't be the same. The adrenaline, the rush can only happen that first time, and it's going to happen on Saturday night. Let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in Philip. Hey, Philip. What's up, buddy?
Hey, good. I'll talk some football with you.
Yeah,
we
man. Do it.
We do a thing. We do a thing at work. Come in, a few of the guys I work with, where I've got this spin app thing, this spinning wheel thing, and like for the games that are coming up this weekend, for example, we've got 4 standalone games. We got North Carolina on Thursday and TCU and Stanford on Friday, and then, like you said, Sunday there's a game and Monday there's a game. But then I picked out. I think I came up with 12 games for Saturday, and out of those 12, we put them all on the spinning wheel, but we only are picking 12 games. So we spin to see which games we pick, and then we have a point total 1 through 12, and whatever the spinning wheel gives the point total to the games, that's how many points you can win. So it's kind of a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like a really cool way to do it.
It is. It's a lot of fun. If you're good enough, you can win 78 points, I believe is what it adds up to. But, that's pretty hard. So we started it last weekend, and one of the guys got the Georgia Tech game right, and that fell at a 3-point value. And I pulled off the Montana State win. I don't know how in the world I got it, but I did. And that was a 2-point win. And then I got 1 point for the SMU win, which I nearly got beat. So one of the guys I worked with, he finished with a 4. I got a 3, and the other guy got 1. He got the SMU game. But now it's starting, full-fledged now. And, that might be a good fun thing for people to do at work or wherever, just to get some guys together and let that spinning wheel app sort of determine who the games are and what the point values are. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like it, man. Thanks for the suggestion. I think anytime you can have little bit of a friendly competition or some type of, games that you're playing within the games without necessarily having to gamble big money, like some people do, and that's a lot of stress and pressure. But if you can have a little bit on the line and a little bit of fun, different ways to do it. And, that sounds like a great way, Philip. Thanks for the idea.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but anyway, the games this weekend I think are going to be good, and there's so many that can go either way. I honestly don't know who in the world to pick for the North Carolina at Minnesota. Stanford, as bad as they've been the last few years, they were way down against Colorado last year and came back and beat Colorado.
Sure did.
And then you got Miami at Florida. I still think Clemson and Georgia is going to be a good game. I know Tom doesn't think so, and I don't think Barry thinks it'll be that close, but I think that's going to be a close game. And then Penn State at West Virginia. You talk about a trap game. Whew.
Yeah, a rivalry game too. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's some really good games on this first weekend. I laid out the SEC schedule, several in the SEC, but outside of the SEC too, like you said. And some of these games, when you're picking them, you're right. You hit one every now and then, and you just don't know, which way to go on it, because it looks so close to you. From a point spread prediction now, and I'll start my SEC picks on Friday, but I said, on the air last week that I liked Georgia Tech and I liked Nevada, which kind of Nevada pick went against the grain a little bit, but I just thought for a first game, they were drawing 27.5, something like that, and at home. And I think SMU's a pretty good team, but I just didn't think SMU was ready to roll in there on Saturday night and blow them out. And they didn't, as you said. Really fortunate to win the game, to be honest with you.
Well, they were, yeah.
But they did get the win. But I do it for fun. Last year, because I know you listen to the show, last year was a really poor year for me. Now again, I'm not saying this to try to be cute. It's the truth. It's a lot easier when you just pick selected games that you really like. When you pick every SEC game against the point spread, that's hard because you can't say, well, I'm not going to pick this one. The only time I won't pick a game is if there's, it's a FCS versus SEC game and you don't even have a line. But, when I pick every SEC point spread, I'm not cherry picking, so if you can hit over 500 and I really had some years where I was over 60%, but last year I had a losing record. So hopefully I'll bounce back this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I like about this spinning wheel thing that we do is that, you just don't know what game's going to pop up.
Right.
And it just makes it fun. But anyway, did you see the Sloane Stephens tennis match last night?
I did not. Did she win?
Gary, she won the first set, 6-love. Mm-hmm. She was up 3-love in the second set, and she got beat.
Oh, Lord. That's a meltdown.
It was a complete meltdown. She lost to a girl, I believe she was from France. And her first serve was only hitting about 82 miles an hour most of the night. But she came back and beat Sloane Stephens in the second set 7-5 and then won the third set 7-5. And Sloane Stephens, she couldn't even move. I mean, she was just totally... It looked like a conditioning deal with me.
So she was worn out. Yeah, you're up. You win 6-love, and then you're up 3-love in the second set, and you wind up getting beat. That may be a conditioning issue there. That's tough, Larry. I mean, Philip.
Yeah. Well, it was unbelievable to watch that go down like it did, and it was a complete meltdown from a good player.
Now, did Djokovic won his in straight sets? Didn't he?
I was not able to stay up and watch all that. He was up. Yeah, he won straight sets, 6-2, 6-2, 6-4.
Yeah, he didn't have much of a difficulty. So, but anyway, it's going to get interesting.
Have a good one.
Thank you. All right, 9:31. We'll take a time out and come back with Rudy Arm and the Rocket Man next year on the Gary Harris Show.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages,
changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
The best station in the state, breaking down Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
.934, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. It's time for the Rocket Man, Drew DeArmond, 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville, where he co-hosts Talking Ball weekday mornings from 7 to 9 with Scott Tyson, and joins us every Tuesday to do exactly that, talk some ball. Drew, you ready?
Yes, sir.
It's game week, man. Alabama and Western Kentucky going to kick it off Saturday night at 6 o'clock inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. Alabama's 31-point favorite, as you would expect. But this Western Kentucky team, we know they've got TJ Finley coming in from Texas State, who put up huge numbers last year, played against Alabama when he was at LSU and at Auburn. Somehow he's still just a junior. Will Friend, by the way, is the new offensive coordinator there for Tyson Helton. But this offense for Western Kentucky, I think, will challenge Alabama's defense some. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I don't think there's any question. I mean, look, Western Kentucky's a perennial bowl team. They've been a good offensive program for a long time. Clay Helton's brother, Ty Helton's been the head coach for, I think this is year 7. So he's got a system in place. It's a quarterback-friendly offense. They've got Bailey Zappi in the NFL, who put up a lot of numbers. They've been a really good group of 5 programs, so it's a solid opener. Probably a better caliber of opponent than Middle Tennessee, who, as we know, Rick Stockstill had a long run there, but that was the opener last year, and that was kind of reaching the end. And so I think we all understood that, and, this is a little bit different deal. And TJ Finley, you brought up a good point. I mean, he's moved around a lot. He started at LSU, went to Auburn, spent a year at Texas State. He's kind of done the JT Daniels. He's done the tour. But he's found a home at Western Kentucky. He was he had a good year at Texas State, I thought, and then and they used that and went to Western Kentucky. But he's been very productive, so he'll be a challenge. Kane Womack had the scheme for him that was South Alabama, so they've seen him before. But certainly, it's a good enough opponent that should give Alabama a good, I think a test and a good dress rehearsal to prepare them before they have to go to Wisconsin in a couple of weeks.
And on the other side, Alabama's offense, we're anxious to see it with Jalen Milroe and the Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan influence, see these young wide receivers, the offensive line. But I think that this offense, as we've discussed, Drew, has a chance to be really, really good. What are your expectations in this first game?
I think Alabama, I want to see them be productive and explosive. I want to see this wide receiver group that has some new pieces, including, I think, a freshman All-American in Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, a really interesting transfer portal addition. And then how are the guys that are the holdovers, the Cole Adams, the Kendrick Laws, the Kobe Prentices, Emmanuel Henderson, how are they asserting themselves? And then you've got another couple of guys, Caleb Odom and Rico Scott, 2 freshmen. So it's a nice mix of returnees and guys that have been in the program. How are they, being used in this offense? How are they fitting into it? What does the offense look like? And how in command is Jalen Milroe? How comfortable in his own skin is he? As he progressed from the neck up from the standpoint of processing, getting rid of the ball quickly, not holding on to the ball, not taking sacks, and then also using his legs when he has to because he's so dynamic, such a great athlete. So I'm anxious to see it. And then, of course, I still think the biggest story offensively is the right tackle spot. We're definitely probably going to see, a rotation between Wilkins Formby, and Elijah Pritchett. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I think the running back room, I think it's been undervalued. Jam Miller looks like he's going to be in the lineup. He's been a little nicked up. Justice Haynes, the last time we saw Justice Haynes, he was looking like Najee Harris, in the Rose Bowl, like really showcasing that talent that we all saw when he was being heavily recruited out of Buford, Georgia. And then Richard Young. So are all 3 of those guys going to get on the field? And just, the consistency in performance, the shifts, the motions, the creativity of this coaching staff. There's a lot of things to look forward to offensively, I think, going into Saturday.
Yeah, there is. And I said this earlier this morning, Drew, for this coaching staff. Of course, some of these coaches, two of the assistants and some of the staff were here and have come through that tunnel before for an Alabama football game. But it's a first game for everybody. But it's the first and only time that there'll be a first game for Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. For those guys that came from Washington or those guys that are coming in from other staffs that have never experienced this, it's going to be special. The second game's big too. Don't get me wrong. They're all big. But this will be the first time they've come through that tunnel coaching for the University of Alabama. So I know that they're going to be focused on the game and the process. At the same time, it'll be a special evening for those coaches, including Coach DeBoer.
Well, every first game is special. I mean, Nick Saban and Terry Grant, they scored on the first play from scrimmage against Western Carolina nearly 18 years ago. I think I'm not sure how many people remember that, but they did score in the first play of the Nick Saban era, no doubt about it. So that was exciting. The first game is always memorable. The second game is going to be memorable because of the homage they're going to pay Nick Saban for what he built at Alabama. So we're looking forward to that also. But, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a special night. It's a new era of Alabama football. You could already tell that yesterday because we actually heard coordinators speak at a press conference that wasn't considered fan day. So, and they spoke all of fall camp. You got a chance to hear from Nick Sheridan and Kane Womack and Kalen DeBoer. So, yeah, absolutely. Different can be exciting, and I think especially when you see this head coach and his track record and his staff's track record, it's going to be a special evening. I'm looking forward to seeing this defense fly around. I thought the most revealing comment from Nick Saban on game day last week was that he was at the second scrimmage and he really liked what he saw out of the defense. You have to respect, the greatest coach of all time and the standard he had established defensively at Alabama. If he's telling you that he was impressed with what he saw, then, I think Kane Womack and this defense were trending in the right direction. They certainly played with a lot of physicality and effort, and you hope to continue to see that on Saturday.
Drew, big picture for this team, getting through this first game and moving in through the schedule. Of course, going to get a big road test, as you alluded to, the third week. But how do you see the season kind of playing out? I'm not talking about wins and losses. I'm just talking about I have a feeling that this team is going to get consistently better. And I think that's what you're hoping for. But I think the team you see on week 1 won't be the team you see in week 4 or week 8 or week 12. I think this team has a chance to be a lot better team at the end of the season, the start of the season. You agree with that, or do you think they're just going to come out of the gate and be hitting full speed right off the bat?
I mean, we'll see. That's part of the intrigue, man. I mean, I think they've had a great off season. I thought it was revealing what Coach DeBoer said yesterday, that he felt like the effort and the intensity and the focus was good all fall camp. Some people will say that's coach speak, but I mean, this program has been through a lot of transition. And so and especially when you're talking about Nick Saban moving on and having as good a run as any we've ever seen in college football history. But, I think I'm anxious to see what a Kalen DeBoer team looks like. I certainly felt like that Washington team got better last year. A matter of fact, I'll be the first to admit to your listeners, I thought Oregon would win the rematch after it was such a great game during the regular season. But Washington physically dominated that game and beat a really good quarterback in Bo Nix that I thought was a special talent when he was coming out of Scottsboro and Pinson Valley High School, but he was never able to reach the consistency at Auburn because the infrastructure and the coaching wasn't good enough there. He went to Oregon. He went to a program with better infrastructure and better leadership, and he became the player everybody thought he could. And now he's the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. And yet Michael Penix and Washington handled them twice. So I certainly thought that Washington team continued to get better. They beat Steve Sarkisian in Texas when a lot of people didn't think they would for the second straight year. So yeah, I thought Kalen's team got better. Only problem at the end of the year last year, Penix was a little banged up, and certainly Dylan Johnson, the 1,200-yard rusher, was. So I'm anxious to see if this Alabama football team might have a little more depth than that Washington team, even though I thought that Kalen DeBoer and his staff got the absolute most out of that squad that they could.
Drew DeArmond with us here on the Gary Harris Show. Let's talk a little recruiting. We'll get to the commitment from last week, but first some news, and not surprising. 5-star Alabama wide receiver commit Caleb Cunningham is going to be in Oxford for the Ole Miss opener against Furman, and even though he's committed to Alabama, this is a recruitment that's going to continue, it looks like, for him. He's a guy who had gotten around a lot, and I think that he's one of these players, until you sign him, I don't think you feel confident that you're going to get him.
Well, I mean, certainly great that he's come to Alabama, and and that he's going to be there for the first game of the Kalen DeBoer era. He's committed to Alabama right now, and we haven't even seen Alabama take the field under Kalen DeBoer. If Jalen Milroe becomes a Heisman candidate, many people think he can. If Ryan Williams puts up video game numbers, if they're playing 6, 7, 8 receivers and they're all making plays, guess what? Caleb Cunningham's going to be a University of Alabama receiver, in my opinion. He wants to win games. He doesn't want to go 7-5.
Yeah, he's going to be at Ole Miss on Saturday, Drew. Cunningham is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the news that's come out this morning, that he's one of the.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I've been doing a radio show. I have not, kept up with the.
Oh yeah, no worries. I
saw last night that he was going to be. That if they were saying a 5-star was going to be in Tuscaloosa, I thought it was Caleb Cunningham. So if he's going to be at Ole Miss and take in Lane Kiffin, certainly you'd rather him be in Tuscaloosa. But there you go. So. Again, recruiting changes. It's very fluid. It's the kids in Mississippi are difficult to hold on to. I mean, certainly it's going to be a war to hold on to Caleb Cunningham. I'll reiterate and stick to what I just said, though. I think if Alabama does what they're supposed to do, and I think in this offense and these receivers get developed like I think they will, then I think Alabama is going to hold on to Caleb Cunningham and Keelan Deere. But I didn't expect Mississippi State and Ole Miss to let both those kids go. They're both going to continue to recruit each of them. Keelan Deere just committed to Alabama. And we know Caleb Cunningham, this isn't the first time that he's visited Oxford since he committed to Alabama. So he's been there before, but he's also been on campus in Tuscaloosa. And you just got to keep building the relationship. Good for Lane Kiffin. I mean, I hope that Ole Miss can handle the pressure of being a team that's with a bullseye on their back. Florida State sure as hell couldn't.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hey, a few more minutes. So let's go around the SEC a little bit. And obviously we're not going to break down every game. That's too many, but I want to get your thoughts on some of these SEC openers. Let's begin with Georgia and Clemson playing in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. 11 a.m. kick, which is kind of odd to me, but, I mean, obviously Georgia's the number one team in the country. I think on paper they should win the game. Weird stuff going on with Clemson, with Dabo. He's no longer going to take phone calls on his radio show and still continues to say that he's not going to use the portal. And, he's kind of, been a little hard-headed in that regard, but also, Clemson's talented. And you get the feeling that Dabo and this team are going to be ready to go in this game. Do you think Clemson can get this into the fourth quarter, or do you think it's a Georgia blowout?
No, I mean, I think Clemson can get it into the fourth quarter, but I don't think they'll win the game. I think Georgia will win. I like, the fact that, they've got Carson Beck back. He's a really good player. He impressed me last year. I think they've got enough pieces back, and we'll see about Trevor Etienne, how much he plays. I know he's been a little nicked up, but and Georgia is going to have talent defensively as well. But I do think Clemson can hang with Georgia. Don't forget, I mean, it was kind of a slobber knocker game a few years ago, that was played over there. I believe that game was played in Athens, or it may have been on a neutral field. I can't remember. I just remember it was not a pretty game, but Georgia won a defensive struggle, and it was close, and they pulled away in the fourth quarter. And I think it's probably going to be much the same again when Georgia and Clemson play in this rematch. So I just think Georgia's the better football team. I think they got a little bit better roster. I don't know that I believe in Cade Klubnik yet. So if you had to ask me, I'm definitely going to take the Dogs.
Miami at Florida on Saturday afternoon. And listen, a lot of people feel Billy Napier's coaching for his job, but Mario Cristobal is not exactly in a great position either. There's a lot expected out of Miami this year. This is a huge game, in-state matchup, season opener, and the winning coach is going to have a little bit of a cushion, and the losing coach is going to be under the gun right off the bat, Drew.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no question about it, and it's a big game, I think, for both teams. I've seen some projections that have Miami winning the ACC and being in the playoff, and certainly, Mario Cristobal could use that. They've been underwhelming in his 2 years there. I think they're 12-13 in his time. Billy Napier's 11-14, but Billy, I think he had an even bigger mess to clean up than Miami did because Dan Mullen couldn't recruit his mother. And so he just didn't do a very good job of leaving talent there. Mario is a great recruiter. There's no doubt about it. He's one of the best that Nick Saban ever had. He's in the top 5. So I'm not surprised that Mario has gotten good players to Miami. He struggles, sometimes with the game, with the in-game coaching aspects. And we remember that game that they just gave away against Georgia Tech last year. That's what's got to change for Mario. They've got to do a better job of coaching in-game. Billy Napier really does too. I think the winner of this game is definitely going to, they're still going to be under the gun, but, I still think it's going to be a huge win and a cathartic win for whoever can pull this out. But I think it's more important for the ACC after Florida State fell on their face, because I'll be honest with you, this is kind of what I'm expecting. I think Florida is going to step up and win this game in the Swamp. Now, I don't know, though. I'm anxious to see Cam Ward because he was a really good QB on the Group of 5 level, slash FCS, whatever you want to say. But I believe that you really consider that more Group of 5. So, and then I thought he was good at Washington State. He nearly went pro. But Graham Mertz was good for Florida as well. I just think in this game, I'm giving the nod to Florida because of the home field advantage. I still remember 2 years ago, we know how good a program Utah has in Kyle Whittingham, Cam Rising, and yet with Anthony Richardson, Florida found a way to win. I think they'll find a way to win this game. I think Georgia will beat Clemson, and I think the ACC, there's somebody going to go to the playoff because they're going to win that conference, but it's going to be a rough beginning for the ACC, I think, after Saturday.
All right, let's talk about another huge game in the SEC, and that's A&M opening up at home on Saturday night against Notre Dame. A chance for the Aggies right off the bat now to make a statement. They're the 20th ranked team. Notre Dame is a top 10 team at number 7. But Kyle Field will be jumping. Does A&M have enough, though, to get this done?
Yes, coaching matters. I mean, the guy that ruined it's on the Ponderosa. He's not coaching anymore. So I think Mike Elko is the reason that Jimbo had his best years in Texas A&M. I think he's a very solid coach. He may not be a sexy name, but he did a great job at Duke with what he had. He'll be coaching against Riley Leonard, a guy he knows very well. I think A&M can find a way to win this game. I think, I know Notre Dame's supposed to be good defensively, but I think A&M will be very solid defensively with Elko as the coach. And now we're just going to have to see what kind of offense they're going to put together at A&M. But I really like that they hire, at A&M as far as bringing in, the K-State culture, kind of the K-State toughness with that offense, the balance, the running of the football. I know they got a lot of weapons to replace, and Evan Stewart left to go to Oregon. They lost their biggest playmaker to the NFL, but I still think that roster has talent on it. Now, Reuben Owens going out is just very concerning, the running back. I know he was going to be a big part of this, but I think, in the past, under Kevin Sumlin and Jimbo Fisher, A&M lost a lot of these home games. I think that changed under Mike Elko, and I think it'll be a great game. I'm really actually looking forward to it. I think Marcus Freeman's done a really good job at Notre Dame, and I'm anxious to see Riley Leonard because I think he's a really good athlete who, if he had stayed healthy at Duke, might be in the NFL right now. So it's one of my more intriguing matchups, but I like A&M at the buzzer in this game.
And lastly, Drew, and we got about a minute, but Southern Cal and LSU Sunday night out in Vegas. To me, these are similar coaches. I mean, a lot of pizzazz for Lincoln Riley and for Brian Kelly, but yet they both won, but neither one have won the ultimate prize. And you just get the feeling to some degree there's more. I don't know how much substance there is with either one of these coaches when it comes to a championship caliber program. Who do you like on Sunday night?
I like LSU. I think Brian Kelly's got a great offensive line. He's got Mason Taylor, a great tight end, and that's the thing that Brian Kelly's known for with his football teams at Notre Dame. They were able to develop offensive lines. They developed tight ends. He's starting to do that at LSU. I think Nussmeier has played enough that what he can do. Now they're going to Kyron Lacey and some of these receivers are going to have to step up. There's no question. And I think that's very, very important. No doubt about it. And they've got some young, unproven receivers, but I think they're talented. And so we'll see if they ultimately can get this done. I know they've got a reconfigured backfield as well. But I really think LSU's defense is going to be a lot better. I know some people are kind of down on the talent, thinking they need another year to replenish. But I think, again, coaching matters. Bo Davis along the DL, certainly Blake Baker, and then the two coaches he brought with him from Missouri. There's some continuity there. I just think they're going to be a lot better. And I don't believe in Lincoln Riley. I think he's soft. I don't think he wants any part of the SEC. Now they have a good offense still. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll score points. The one thing concerning is Brian Kelly has not been good in either of the two season openers the last couple of years against Florida State for LSU. But maybe they've learned from that. I've got to believe they have. And I think it'll be a very competitive game. But I just got to think in the end, the coaching changes made by LSU, Nussmeier having some experience at the quarterback spot that especially he got at the end of last year, and then some of the weapons that LSU has that maybe are a little bit unproven. I think, especially Aaron Anderson. Watch Aaron Anderson. This is his time. He needs to finally prove that talent is in that recruiting reputation he had was the real deal. And I think maybe he could break out for LSU in this game. I'm going to take the Bayou Bengals to win by a touchdown.
All right, folks, catch Drew on his show every weekday morning on 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville. Follow him on Twitter at DrewD977ESPN. Tider Insider as well.
Trades in Alabama. Julio Jones Kia off Greensboro Ave. Stop in today or visit us online at buyfromjulio.com.
Buyers must have qualified credit. Not all buyers will qualify. Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays hot and dry today with a sunny sky, the high 97. Clear tonight, the low 72. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, the high 98. Thursday, partly sunny, a few isolated afternoon thunderstorms around, the high 97. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Got to get back and wrap up this first hour. Went a little over with Drew, but got another hour coming up. Kayla Anderson, the Titans Report, coming up at 10:15. More of your phone calls. That's all coming up in hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time.
/deal or text DEAL to 511-511. Text DEAL to 511-511 today. All dogs are unique. Your dog results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Kevin Wyatt.
Plenty of news in the NFL today. NFL owners are set to vote on allowing private equity firms to take an ownership stake of up to 10% in each franchise as the valuations of each team continues to go up. And the Washington Commanders announcing that they will begin playing this season at Northwest Stadium. Yes, FedEx Field no longer called that. They have reached a deal with Northwest Federal Credit Union to have them have the exclusive naming rights for the stadium. And we do have plenty of players getting cut today and moved to various reserve lists, as we have 948 players who need to be removed from rosters by 4 o'clock Eastern time. ESPN saying Patriots wide receiver Kendrick Bourne starting the season on the physically unable to perform list.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom. Get 24/7 local news coverage and sports updates when you download the free Tuscaloosa Thread app and sign up for twice daily email newsletters. The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, welcome into hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports. Gary Harris, Chase Brumfeld. Another hour to go. Kayla Anderson with the Titans report coming up at 10:15. Hey, some interesting topics that we're going to get into right here off the top. And Dabo Swinney and Deion Sanders both are having issues with the part of the job that goes with being a head football coach. And it's not coaching your team. It is media, fans, what's expected of you, what do you owe your school as the head football coach. Let's start with Deion, who, with the blessing of the University of Colorado, has banned a reporter, a columnist, from asking any questions of Deion at football-related events. Denver Post columnist Sean Keeler has been banned from asking questions of football coach Deion Sanders or other members of the football program. Here's the statement. After a series of sustained personal attacks on the football program and specifically Coach Prime, the CU Athletic Department, in conjunction with the football program, have decided to not take questions from Denver Post columnist Sean Keeler at football-related events. Keeler is still permitted to attend football-related activities as a credentialed member of the media, and other reporters from the Denver Post are welcome to ask questions of football program personnel made available to the media, including coaches, players, and staff. According to the Post, a Colorado Athletic Department media relations staffer told the newspaper it took issue with Keeler's reference to Sanders as deposition Deion, the Bruce Lee of BS, and a false prophet, and his use of phrases such as Planet Prime, the Deion Kool-Aid, and circus. The ban is indefinite, according to the Post. The decision comes 2 weeks after a news conference in which Sanders accused Keeler of always being on the attack and asked, "What happened to get you like this?" Added Sanders, "No, I'm serious. I want to help because it's not normal." Now, here's the deal, Chase, and you're a young guy, and you've seen college football through, a prism of being on the planet 24 years or whatever you've been here, 21, 22, whatever it is. You grab the mic and tell us for sure. I've been on it 60. So my view of college football is a lot broader than yours, obviously, and I've seen it evolve. And as you get older, you'll see it evolve from where it is now, and 30 years down the road, you'll look back and say it's a lot different. And I'm in the media. But at the same time, and I'm not one of these just because I'm in the media that's holier than thou. Anybody knows me as that. I try to be respectful. I don't want to, I'm not ripping on people for the sake of ripping on them. But I think there is an expectation that when you take a job as a head football coach at one of these major universities making millions of dollars a year, part of the expectation, or at least it should be, is that you deal with the media. That's part of your job. You can grab the mic here and chime in on this, Chase. And whether you're Coach Prime or you're Nick Saban or you're Dabo Swinney or you're Kirby Smart, you still work for the university. I don't care, Kirby Smart's making whatever, $12, $13, $14 million, whatever he makes. Coach Prime's making, and they make more than the school president. They make more. They're the highest paid university employee, but they still work for the university. You still work for the University of Alabama, University of Colorado, University of Georgia, Clemson University, wherever you're employed. So with that, as an employee, I put this on Colorado too. I don't think that you can let the coach start dictating who he's going to talk to and take questions from. One-on-one interviews are one thing, But at a press conference to say we can't take questions for this, and the Denver Post is a reputable newspaper.
Yeah.
And for the university to sign off on that, that's troublesome to me, Chase.
Yeah, it's a bad relationship between the media and the University of Colorado. It kind of replicated when Deion was at Jackson. I'm reading I'm reading it now. He had a reporter barred as well. I think Deion knows this, that they're going to come for him. You know, he has his son, both of his sons on the team. You know, he brings a lot of attention to his team. And I don't know if it's Colorado's problem. Maybe they didn't prepare him correctly, or maybe I don't know. He needs to do a better job of handling these questions, because they're not going to stop. Not because you ban one reporter, they're going to be, the questions are not going to intensify. Now, they didn't do good last year. So he has to do better this year in order to kind of silence a little more of the criticism, because they're under a heat this year. And if they don't do well, I have him on the hot seat. I don't think Colorado can take another mediocre season, in my opinion.
Here's what's interesting is you have Deion Sanders, who likes to be referred to as Coach Prime. He's asked to be referred to as Coach Prime, which to me right off the bat is unique. You have a lot of former NFL and college football players who are now in the media. That's what they do. They're friends of Deion Sanders. But they're also analysts, reporters, writers, broadcasters. And so I think most of them, whether it's Desmond Howard or Shannon Sharpe or anyone else that I've read for the most part, are going to take my stance, your stance, a pro-media stance, because they're now in the media and they see the danger of coaches starting to say, well, I'll talk to this guy or I won't talk to this guy. That's not how it works. If that Post columnist is still a credentialed member of the media, and they knew better than to take his credential away, because I guarantee if they pull that, they're going to get a lawsuit. But if you don't go by the rules, listen, criticism, nobody likes to be criticized. I've said before on this show, and people that know me know this, I'm thin-skinned. I don't like it. You know, when somebody lashes out at me, whether it's on social media or I don't like it either. And I'm not nearly, as high profile as Deion Sanders, but when you're the head football coach of a university, especially when you have brought, as you said, Chase, all this attention with you last year before the season, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this, and I'm going to come in there and I'm going to cut you and I'm going to turn the roster over. And then when you get criticized, you're like, I'm not listening to it. It does not work that way. So I'm concerned because I could see other coaches saying the same thing. But I'm disappointed in the University of Colorado because, what this tells me is, I'm just going to be honest with you. You got the tail wagging the dog. You got Coach Prime telling the administration, and the administration signing off on it instead of the other way around. And that's a dangerous precedent to me.
And you think about it, too. If Deion's able to do this, barring a reporter or a columnist, from
asking questions,
he can so much as stretches as if he feels kind of there's more media that's kind of going for him. He can be like, I won't speak. I won't even show up, let alone give a statement. He'll just do it from Zoom, and I'm out and get ready for the next game. So I think Colorado needs to have a grip on Coach Prime because if this is just the start of it, and I don't see him stopping if he feels if these columnists are coming for him, he's going to be like, look, I'm representing y'all. Y'all have to protect me.
Interesting. All right, I mentioned Dabo because Dabo has, just a few years ago, he was everybody's favorite. Everybody loved Dabo Swinney. Then he started catching a little flack because of some of the religious views, which I think are great. But, a lot of people were saying, media people were saying, no, don't bring religion into football. And he was just like, well, that's who I am. But now, and then he started as the team they're still good, but they were right there with Alabama, you know. And as they slipped a little bit, he started to have some back and forth with the media. But the big thing with Dabo now, and we got to get to the break because I got to hit Kayla on time, so we'll finish this later, is that he is now taking his weekly call-in show and making it a non-call-in show. And tell the caller that we'll take them after Kayla to be ready to call back in because we got to hit this break and hit her on time. But he's now not taking calls on his call-in show because he doesn't want to be criticized by fans that call in. And there was one particular call last year with Tyler from Spartanburg who evidently prompted this. So now he is cutting out callers from calling in on his show, which is a big part of what these call-in shows are. That's what they are. They're call-in shows. So that's thin-skinned. So coaches, listen, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. You know, if you're going to make $10, $11 million a year, you got to be able to, you got to be able to take some heat. All right, we'll be back with Kayla Anderson for the first Tennessee Titans report of the season right here next on the Gary Harris Show.
On the next Inside the Locker Room with Coach Wimp Sanderson and Barry Sanderson.
Tune in Wednesday, 7:30. We'll talk with SEC Network and former Alabama player Roman Harper. We'll talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide with Roman and go across the SEC with Roman. Also, in the second hour, we'll talk with Bill Cameron. We'll find out what's going on with the Auburn Tigers as they get ready to take on Alabama A&M down on the plains. We'll also take your...
In Alabama, Julio Jones Kia off Greensboro Ave. Stop in today or visit us online at buyfromjulio.com.
Buyers must have qualified credit. Not all buyers will qualify.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials. And for the best Mexican cuisine in West Alabama, remember, the name is Los Tarascos with locations in Tuscaloosa and Northport.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays hot and dry today with a sunny sky, the high 97. Clear tonight, the low 72. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, the high 98. Thursday, partly sunny, a few isolated afternoon thunderstorms around, the high 97. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Follow the Crimson Tide on their journey to another national championship. Touchdown, Alabama! On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
10:16. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and it's time for the first Tennessee Titans report for 2024. And I'm excited to pick Kayla Anderson's brain because, man, this Titans team is going to look a lot different than the team that they put on the field in 2023. Kayla Anderson, Emmy-winning sports anchor now on Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5 The Zone in Nashville, joins us to talk everything Tennessee Titans. Good morning, Kayla.
Good morning. I hope you all are doing well as we've got the first official week of college football upon us, and then the week after we've got NFL.
Yes, we do. And I'm interested to ask you about this Tennessee Titans team. I kind of looked at it as when, Tannehill's gone and Derrick Henry particularly gone, that, this is going to be, a rebuild, a transitional year to try to kind of get on the right track in 2025. But I'm not sensing that. Reading reports, watching some of your coverage, Brian Callahan and company with Will Levis and Calvin Ridley and this new look Titans offense, they're talking like they're planning on winning now. What's the vibe there in Nashville, Kayla?
I think the biggest thing you have to think about when you look at this new look Titans team on both sides of the ball, really, because they have brought in not only new personnel in terms of players, they've brought in new management, they've brought in new coaches, all new assistants for the most part. And so there was a complete reset here in Nashville, Tennessee in the offseason. And with a lot of resets, sometimes come a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. However, with this reset, it was a little bit more interesting in how they were going to try to win now. And I'm not saying that they're going to the Super Bowl or even that they're going to win the AFC South, because I still think the Houston Texans are the team to beat in this division. However, I will say with them believing that Will Levis was still somebody they felt could be their franchise quarterback, and then going out and specifically finding a head coach that could continue to develop him and get him ready for a full season of being a starter and to be able to compete at that level with some of these teams in the AFC, which we know there's a lot of great quarterbacks in the AFC. They, looked to Brian Callahan and brought him in because of what he's done in the past. I mean, he hasn't been a head coach, but he's done a really fantastic job wherever he's been, kind of helping develop quarterbacks of all different kinds. And the most recent one clearly being Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. And you talk to anybody who was in Cincinnati covering him, he has his fingerprints all over Joe Burrow. It wasn't just Zach Taylor. He was a big part of that offense. So they felt comfortable enough with Levis as a big piece to bring in Callahan and trust Callahan then to take and find his defensive coordinator, trust him to hire the defense, and him to touch on the offensive staff. And what they've put together here has been a really great staff that brings so much knowledge and, veteran presence that the main thing for them this year was development. How can we continue to develop these former players that played under Mike Vrabel that are still here and new players that are coming in, including this draft class, that we can get them up to speed? And then, let's sprinkle in some of these veteran guys in free agency that aren't just no-namers. Tony Pollard. You got Chidobe Awuzie. You got L'Jarius Sneed. You got Calvin Ridley. And so to fill some of those spots with some older players that could help you at least fill those spots for now in the short term, right? Because they are in their 30s and upper 20s, some of these free agent pieces that they got. So what you have now is a lot for Will Levis to work with on the offensive side of the ball. And that's kind of what we've seen during camp and leading up to the season with the preseason game and the small sample size we've seen. He's got everything around him to make him successful. Then add to that Bill Callahan and what he's done for this offensive line up to this point. It's like a complete 180. It's crazy what he has done with even some of the guys we hadn't seen development out of in 2 years here to what we're seeing now. So that's been the positive thing, what makes a lot of people think, okay, maybe they could win a lot more games than we thought just because of this type of offense that they're going to play, what will be unpredictable because of the weapons you've added and the types of two backs you have in Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, who've been utilized a lot throughout camp and the preseason. And then a guy like Will Levis, who's looked to have taken that next step forward, improving his footwork, feeling more comfortable in the pocket, already has that leadership ability. So now they got to go out and actually execute. But I do think it could surprise people who thought this was a complete rebuild.
Well, Sunday afternoon, I actually flipped over to NBC 13, the Birmingham NBC affiliate, to watch the BMW Championship. But they didn't have it because they had Titans Saints. Well, that's fine. I'll watch the first half of Titans and Saints, and really impressed with Levis. 7 of 8, 118 yards, led the Tennessee Titans to 10 points. But I watched J.C. Latham closely, and Titans offense looked good as a whole. I thought he looked great. You mentioned the offensive line. I mean, he looked streamlined with his physique. I watched him follow plays downfield, running 20 yards downfield. The left tackle, the rookie out of Alabama, what's the vibe on him? And again, I just watched, maybe not even the full first half, and I know he didn't play the whole game, but when I saw J.C. Latham Sunday, I was impressed with what I saw.
Man, and I told you, I think the first time I joined the show after he was drafted, first and foremost, that guy is the huge ultimate pro mindset. I don't know if there's many guys year one in the NFL that I have seen that already step in and have a leadership presence about them, even though they're a rookie, but just are so, hardworking. I mean, he was the first one out on the field all through camp, the last one to leave. At one point, Rand Carthon, the GM, shared a story where it was actually starting to storm outside and lightning. He had to go out himself and grab J.C. Latham and say, you have to come in, young man. You can't be out here working anymore because it's about to thunderstorm and we're about to have lightning out here. Because that's the mentality of J.C. Latham. He wants to work, and continue to try to be better because he knows he has a lot to prove, but that's just his mentality in general. So when you already just talk about that factor, that's a blessing because we haven't had a lot of that on the offensive line since Ben Jones has left, since Taylor Lewan has left. You don't have that, like, star power or just, like, the sense that he could be a leader on this line for years to come. But then you see the development. And look, there's been ups and downs during camp. He'll be the first to tell you that Seattle Seahawks joint practice, not a good showing for him. But guess what he did? He got back in the film room immediately after those 2 days of practice, going up against a really good Seattle defensive front that was showing him different looks for the first time in camp for the most part. And he got better. And then you saw him in the preseason game this last weekend in New Orleans, where the offensive line played extended amount of time. For the most part, starters played 2 series. They played the whole first half, the first starters in terms of the offensive line, because Callahan wants them to continue to get better, to vibe with each other, to build that chemistry, because they are so young, right? They're a young line for the most part. I guess excluding Lloyd Cushenberry at center. But what he did in that game, and I agree with you, there was like a combo block, too, where just incredibly impressive with him and Peter Skoronski. I mean, he's a big man who I think will have a little bit of ups and downs, but for the most part, what we've seen in him in just the past 2 months, he is going to be a highlight at left tackle for the next 10 years for this organization. I really can guarantee that.
What have you seen from Calvin Ridley through training camp and now as they get ready to begin the season, Kayla?
Yeah, it's been interesting, and I'll full transparency here because he also has been a great addition to that wide receiver room, just in terms of the veteran experience he brings, but also the adversity he's kind of gone through with what he, dealt with in Atlanta, with the suspension, with the betting, and then comes back, and in Jacksonville he kind of rejuvenates his career for the most part. Then, he comes here and he still feels like he has a lot to prove. And I appreciate that mentality because he plays with a chip on his shoulder. And I think that's important to have in that room with that prove it mentality for some of these guys. And that's what he's trying to do. Like, he's never been with Will Levis before in terms of building chemistry. But guess what? He's getting paid to be the number 1 receiver here. And DeAndre Hopkins will be a big part of the team as well, but he's been nursing injury and is expected to be back hopefully at the start of the year, but he hasn't been out here. So Calvin Ridley has been the guy for the most part in terms of what they're trying to build there between Will Levis and him, because Tyler Boyd, who is an addition to, has been phenomenal. And him and Will have connected from the start, but Tyler Boyd knew the offense coming in because he came from Brian Callahan, Zach Taylor's offense in Cincinnati. So that was kind of a given. So there's been really some awe moments because he's a fast, speedy guy. He can get off the line quick. He's very impressive in route running. However, once we got to kind of the part of training camp where they were doing the joint practices, they were off a little. They couldn't make that connection when they were going up against a really good secondary in joint practices with the Seattle defense cornerback. So there was a little bit of disappointment there. But at the same time, it takes time to build that connection. And, that deep ball, too, has been something that we just haven't seen a lot of in camp because Brian Callahan has been trying to work on things like short intermediate passes with Will Levis, something that he hasn't done in the past that he's going to do a lot of in this offense. So we haven't seen a lot of those connections firsthand as a media. Now, there have been practices that have been closed. We don't know what that is once they're closed. But when we saw him out there in that preseason game again on Sunday, that's what we wanted to see. There was, a deeper ball to him, to Calvin Ridley, and we're like, okay, that's the kind of connection you hope to see more of throughout the season. So far it's been an up and down kind of mixed review, but I think we all feel like it's going to get figured out between him and Will Levis because they're both hard workers and they're both going to do everything they can to make sure that eventually is a connection that's going to be, used a lot.
Wrapping up the Titans report with Kayla Anderson. Let me ask you about the deal. I think it's great for everybody. Malik Willis getting traded to the Packers for a 2025 seventh rounder. All indications are he's a great kid. It just didn't work in Tennessee. For whatever reason, of course, now with the coaching change, it just seems like it's just good for everybody that he's going to get a fresh start, and clearly he doesn't fit in the plans there in Nashville. So you turn the page.
He has taken light years in terms of steps forward in the last few months under this new staff. And credit the heck out of Brian Callahan, Bo Hardegree, who he brought in as a quarterback's coach, to what they have kind of helped Malik Willis accomplish and what they allowed him to do, knowing, they didn't know exactly what they were going to do with him probably when, they were brought on as staff. Like, they knew they wanted Mason Rudolph to be the backup because he has a veteran resume, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen Mason Rudolph in those moments, and I don't think there was ever a question in camp that Malik Willis was going to beat him out for that. They went and got him for a reason. However, they gave Malik Willis a lot of opportunity to get his tape together, to showcase that he could be a backup possibly somewhere else and continue to develop him, which I thought was awesome. And Malik Willis will tell you firsthand, he kind of grew a confidence about himself too. And you saw it in the preseason games that he played in, especially that final one, the kind of tune-up game. To be able to do that and score that touchdown, that great pass to Bryce Oliver, maybe one of the best plays he's made. And then the 2-minute drill where he finishes off with a touchdown to Bryce Oliver for the second time in that game. That kind of stamped what we thought here could be a possible trade. And sure enough, it is with Green Bay, who Chad Brinker, who is, right over Rand Carthon here now, was in Green Bay before this. I'm sure kind of put the word out there in Green Bay, hey, look at this guy. We've been developing him. And sure enough, the trade is made yesterday for a 7th-round pick. I think he's going to one of the better places that cares about their players, the good organization. They've had development of quarterbacks in the past, more so starters, yes, but I don't think it's a bad situation. He's going to be the backup. I think is it Sean Clifford? He's gone. Malik Willis is the backup there, so he has opportunity to continue to develop, but also he could get a chance to play at some point. So I think it was the best for both parties. And this Titans team, what they've preached is we continue to have to build draft stock. They only had 5 picks this next year for the draft. Now they've got 6. Yes, it's a 7th rounder, but guess what? The guys that they picked in the 6th and 7th round, Gary, this year, guess what? They're going to make the roster, and they're probably going to play this year.
Wow. Lastly, Kayla, what a fun division. 2 years ago, the Jaguars stormed down the stretch to overtake the Titans. Last year, the Texans came out of nowhere. Texans, Colts, Jaguars, and Titans. Can you just toss them up in the air and pull a name out of the hat? Who do you like in the division?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to go with the Texans right now because of the momentum they have with the most important piece, on a team, and that's your quarterback. And I know that there are sophomore slumps. We've seen it numerous times with quarterbacks. I've always believed in C.J. Stroud. I watched a ton of him at Ohio State. He got knocked a lot in the draft process of maybe not being a smart quarterback. That was so stupid for people to even think that or believe that, because I think he's going to be a star in this league. So I just think with what they've added in the offseason too there, that's going to be a hard team to beat. However, it's weird. Trevor Lawrence, he just got paid. He still has not fully convinced me that he's going to take that team to the promised land. He's a little bit one of those that I'm still a little bit in and out on. And maybe it's because he was a first overall pick and I still have high expectations that you need to achieve that. But at the same time, he hasn't really got to that level yet. So the Jags are still a question mark to me. And then for me, the Colts, I think they finished last in the division, and maybe I'm biased because I cover the Titans and I'm with them every day. Anthony Richardson is still a huge question mark. You think Will Levis is a question mark? Anthony Richardson still needs to know how to take care of his body, but you saw one drive from him in the preseason last week or so, and then that was followed by a lot of inconsistency. So for him, he's got, big shoes to fill from the quarterbacks of the past there, and that organization is still a little bit questionable for me just because of the quarterback position. I don't believe as much in Anthony Richard right now. I know his ceiling's high, though.
Great stuff, Kayla. As always, folks, catch her weekday mornings with Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5 The Zone. Follow her on Twitter/X at Kayla Anderson TV. And we're looking forward to another season of Titans Reports right here on the Gary Harris Show. Thank you, Kayla.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a great one.
All right, 10:34 here on the Gary Harris Show. And we got to get to the break. Before we do, though, I'll tell you that the YMCA of Tuscaloosa, we had Jeff Knox on yesterday, the CEO, continues to have through the end of September, no joining fee right now. Not going to cost you a dime to join. Just join and get started working out. Also, 10% off all their personal training packages, which I'm a big advocate for because they'll help you get to where you want to go. That's the YMCA of Tuscaloosa.
Business, Tuscaloosa Tractor has great deals and financing programs on Kubota equipment to fit your budget. Tuscaloosa Tractor, Skyland Boulevard East. Don't you buy no ugly tractor.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:38. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. A couple of notes here in regards to former Alabama players with broadcasting opportunities. Damian Square is being reported to be the new Crimson Tide Sports Network sideline analyst, at least for this first game against Western Kentucky. I don't know that anything's been officially announced yet by Crimson Tide Sports Network, but it looks like Damian Square will be on the sidelines. Former Alabama defensive lineman, good friend of mine, by the way. I've had him on the program here. His wife, Brandy, interned for me at the TV station years ago. He'll do a great job. Of course, another Damian Harris, was set to be in that position. We now know what his gig is going to be. He is going to be an analyst for the new college football pregame show on CBS Sports HQ, which kicks off every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Central. Damian Harris joining that team as an analyst. And they've got most of their college football people there. Danny Cannell, who's not, really popular with a lot of Alabama people, but Josh Pate, who Matt Zennett's names that you might recognize. Of course, Jenny Dale, who did sidelines for CBS when they had college football, all a part of that team. So that's where Damian Harris is going. College football pregame on CBS Sports HQ. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park in North River Hotline, and that's where we find Tom. Hey, Tom. Good morning, buddy.
Gary, good morning. Enjoyed the show this morning. Thanks. A lot. Very good. Very well done. I want you to tell me this. The media is always jumping up and protecting one of their own. But now you get African-American head coach and you see that they all pulled their little tentacles in, and what I think they should have done as a group was said, no, you know what, we're not taking that kind of behavior on one of our own in the press. That's not fair, and it's not right. Where is the outrage from the other media members in that room?
All right, I'm having a hard time following. You're saying media protects its own, so where is...
Well, yeah. If somebody comes up and declares something about, for instance, somebody calls CNN fake news, everybody, Fox, NBC, everybody, they jump on that, man, and they start fighting tooth and nail, protecting one of their own in the media.
Right.
Now, the room that where the press conference is being held with Dabo and Coach Prime and all that, there's other media members involved in that, and from various outlets of media, And why aren't they saying this is not right?
I think they may very well be doing that, Tom. I'm not there, but I get the feeling that out in Boulder and Denver and the media that covers Colorado football, I think they're all very much opposed to what's happening there. At the same time, they're on a beat. They've got to cover that beat, and I'm sure they don't want to be in his crosshairs next. And if he's a columnist, so he can get by without asking questions. But if you're a beat writer and for some reason then they say we're not going to take your questions, you can't cover the beat. I mean, they'd have to remove you and put somebody else on the beat. So I'm sure there's some concern about, hey, I don't want to be the next guy that he targets. Not because, if he starts with one guy, who's to say he gets, he doesn't like what you write. And the next thing you know, I'm not taking questions for you. The university, and you know me, I'm not the, hey, protect the media guy. You know that about me. But once you set the precedent as a university of saying we're going to back our coach and not allow this guy to ask questions, where does it end? Do you ban everybody that gives you a tough question? I mean, or says something about you that you don't like? It's a dangerous precedent, in my opinion, Tom, and that's not me trying to protect the media. It's just, when you make millions of dollars as the head football coach at one of these universities, there's going to be some criticism that goes with that. That's the reality of it. And if you can't handle that, then I do wonder what you're doing in the position.
That's interesting. And I never thought about that, but you're exactly right. This wasn't a beat writer he took on. This is an opinion columnist. And there's a lot of difference between the two.
There really is.
I've never stopped to consider that difference. But you're exactly right. That is the deal there, and I stand corrected.
Well, you don't have to be staying corrected. It just has to. You have to look at it. You're right. There's a columnist and a beat writer are completely different jobs, and I just, like I said, I just don't want to see this become the norm. We're going to decide who's going to ask questions, who can't ask questions, and I see it starting to happen. At the same time, media need to be respectful too. If you're just trying to skull drag a coach for no other reason than you think it's going to give you some visibility and get your name out there, I'm not a fan of that either, Tom. I'm not a fan of media using their position. But at the same time, when you're a head football coach making millions of dollars, the expectation is that dealing with the media is part of your job. It just comes with the territory. And if you can't handle that part of it, then you can't handle being a head football coach at one of these schools. It's just the way it is.
Well, I think that is so interesting, the point you made, and it's so correct. And I'll tell you this right now that you said it, my mind is wondering, Deion knows the difference between a beat writer and a columnist, too.
Yeah, he does. Oh, absolutely, he does. Deion's smart. Deion knows exactly what he's doing. He's sending a message that if you criticize me too harshly, I'm going to cut you out of the program. This isn't just about that one columnist, but it's a message to everybody. Hey, this is what I'm capable of doing. I've got the backing of my administration. You come at me too hard, and I consider you to be out of line, and then I'm going to cut you out, man. I'm not going to let you have any contact with me or ask me any questions or be a part of anything that I do. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. And then on the other side with Dabo, you've done a call-in show the whole time that you've been at Clemson. And now all of a sudden you want to cut the callers out, and it goes back to that call he got last year. Tyler from Spartanburg called in and just flat out, when they were 4-4, said, "Why are we paying you $11.5 million to go 4-4?" He said it sounded a whole lot like Tommy Bowden, and I'll tell you one thing: Tommy Bowden didn't make the same amount of money as you do. You make $11.5 million a year, the second in college football, if I'm not mistaken. I'm curious why that salary has led to a 4-4 record. And then Dabo blasted him, and Dabo didn't like it. And now Dabo has said, well, you know what? I won't take any more calls, which to me is, and I like Coach Swinney. I knew him when he was here as an assistant coach under Mike Dubose, and I think he's a great guy, but he is wrong here to me. I mean, you can't, once you start cutting the fans off, I think you're putting yourself in a position of you better win. That's all I got to say, because they will come after you even more so now if you don't win. Yeah.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Tom. We're going to go ahead and get to Ellis here before we get to the break. Good morning, Ellis. How are you?
I am sorry it's so late, but I had.
No, you're fine. You got more time. You're not too late this time. When it's late is when you're calling her up before the end of the show.
Well, I had a scan this morning. I had to go have a scan this morning, so I won't know until next week.
Okay, well, good luck with that. But no, you got plenty of time. You got plenty of time this morning, Ellis. What's on your mind?
They put that old contrast in you.
Oh, yeah, that's right, the dye. Yeah. Well, I hope...
We get through using it, we throw it out back, and it kills the weed.
Yeah. I hope you're okay, man.
I would say it would. I just go get your opinion on the Dabo thing. I want to say one thing. I am so glad we didn't get him as a coach.
Well, I think again, I don't know this. I haven't talked to him in many years, so I'm only saying this based on what I read. I think that Dabo would have had interest in the Alabama job. I don't think that Alabama had interest in Dabo. I just don't. Greg Byrne, the athletic director who handled the search himself, I just don't think that's that he was a candidate. So he's done a great job at Clemson, but he's been there a long time, and this is the first year where I think the fan base there is saying, you know what, if this doesn't go the way we want it to, maybe it's time for a change. I'm not saying he's worn out his welcome yet, but if he has a big year, it won't matter. We won't be having this conversation. But if they have an 8-4 type year, similar to last year, then you know what? He's going to be feeling the heat more so than he is right now.
Well, and on top of that, doing what he did about not taking calls from fans,
I don't get that one. I just don't understand that. To me, that's just asking for trouble. That's just asking the fan base to pile on you if you don't win, because that's a slap in their face. I mean, once you cut them out, that's a big part of these shows. That's why you do these shows, really, to me, is for revenue, obviously the licensing.
That's what you do it for, is for the fans.
Yeah, really.
To interact with the coach. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we ain't got him, because he's I just don't like him. I like him as a person that he is, but a coach, no.
Well, Alabama's got their guy. It's Kalen DeBoer's time, and it all starts for the Kalen DeBoer era on Saturday night against Western Kentucky.
Right. Don't doubt DeBoer.
That's right. I like that. Don't doubt DeBoer. Triple D. I like that. Ellis has created Triple D. Don't doubt DeBoer. I'm going to have to remember that one. Give Ellis credit for it.
I'm just ready. I'm ready for it, ready to get down there and take it all in.
Well, brother, you're gonna have a big time. I think we all are on Saturday.
But I'll get a hold of you before Friday and see if I can't meet up with you down there at the radio station.
All right, Ellis, sounds good, man.
All right, roll tide, Gary.
Right, good luck with your health. All right, it's 10:49. We'll take a timeout. We got one segment to go. We'll come back. Bryce, we'll get to you on the other side. You'll close out the show. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
On the next Inside the Locker Room with Coach Wimp Sanderson and Barry Sanderson.
Tune in Wednesday, 7:30. We'll talk with SEC Network and former Alabama player Roman Harper. We'll talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide with Roman and go across the SEC with Roman. Also, in the second hour, we'll talk with Bill Cameron. We'll find out what's going on with the Auburn Tigers as they get ready to take on Alabama A&M down on the Plains. We'll also take your phone calls throughout the show.
Inside the Locker Room, weekdays 7 to 9 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after.
Delicious meat and 3, while Christian and Corey get you ready for the Bama game this weekend. Located at 1925 University Boulevard, downtown Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays hot and dry today with a sunny sky, the high 97. Clear tonight, the low 72. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, the high 98. Thursday, partly sunny, a few isolated afternoon thunderstorms around, the high 97. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
The best sports talk in the state. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:54. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. We're going to jump right back out on the Pinnacle Park North River Hotline and welcome in Bryce. Get him on before the end of the show. Good morning, Bryce.
Hey, listen. Why are we spending so much time talking about a 4-8 coach? And it's always been about Deion. He's selfish. It's always been about Deion, as long as I've known him. You know, he's not worth talking about.
Well, I don't spend that much time talking on him. I don't I can talk about him every day, but he's in the news right now because when you cut off access for a columnist at the major newspaper in your state to ask you questions, it's a news story, Bryce. That's why I'm talking about it.
Well, I'm not talking about you, Gary.
Okay.
I'm talking about everybody else.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand what you're doing, but if we would spend less time talking about him, he'd probably just go away. It's always been about Deion. He's an attention hound, and I'm going to keep it clean. I'm not going to say the other word, okay? Yeah. We know he's always been like that.
Well, the bottom line is this, because of what he brings to the program, if he has another very poor year, it's going to be tough for him. So I think he understands that they got to win more games this year. And if he doesn't, it could go south in a hurry. But that's the way it is for just about all these coaches now. But you're right. When you bring as much attention to yourself and your program as he does, you better get results, particularly after you promised that you were going to get results. So it's going to be a really interesting year for him.
I go all the way back to when he played for the Braves, and he took that ice bucket and poured it on McCarver.
Right.
I mean, that didn't give me any reason to like him anymore. He was a heck of a player, you know, and he could back up. But now he ain't a coach. I'm sorry. You know, not a head coach. Not everybody is. I mean, I heard something today that really blew my mind. I don't know if you heard this or not, and it might have been just false news, that Jimbo was wanting to get back out there and coach. If I asked him, I wouldn't want to coach with all that money I got. Yeah,
he's got more money than he'll ever spend, but I'll tell you why. I don't know if that's true or not, but let me just say, I've always said this. Coaches coach. It's what they do. So because I've seen it time and time again when guys came back, and I thought, why are you doing this? But yeah, I just saw the story. Jimbo Fisher eyeing the right opportunity to return to college football. Yeah, he'll be back coaching, whether it's as a coordinator or as a head coach. He's, because like I said, coaches coach. Man, that's what they do. And, a lot of them can't find that satisfaction in their life, it seems like, in other areas. Sometimes they'll cross over and do TV for a while, but then more times than not, if they get an opportunity, they go back into coaching. So we'll see. I think Jimbo, I found the story that you're talking about. He said he's open to coaching next season. So it looks like if he gets an opportunity, he'll be back on the sideline in 2025.
Well, you hadn't heard that about Orgeron. I'm going to get back and coach. He's
the one that I think Edo kind of has a different mentality. He got to go to LSU, have his dream job, win a national championship, have a perfect season, get paid a lot of money. I get the feeling he's happy as a
he just spend his money and having a good time.
Yeah, I get a feeling he's a different story. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing, Gary. The Dabo, I think he got his feelings hurt because they wasn't interested in him. Just like you said, you couldn't have said it any better than I could. He got his feelings hurt because they didn't consider him. And if they would have considered him to what it mattered, they would have lost one fan. And I know that don't matter to them, but I would have never rooted for Alabama again if they'd hired Dabo. He just wouldn't have fit.
All right.
Caleb DeBoer is more of a fit, and I appreciate you letting me talk.
Good way to close it out, right? All right, have a great day, my friend. All right, it's time to close out the Gary Harris Show, and we'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Catch me on TV tonight with the local sports and with Rodney Orr on Tider Insider TV at 6:30 tonight on WVUA 23. All right, for Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for listening. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next. Have a great day, everybody.